Okay, cool.
Do you need to use mace? Can I use scepter?
Um,
Ooh.
well. Let's go for the briefly the skills and the various options that we have. Also with weapons, etc. So the build is pretty much standard. This one is the recommended one. We have several options that we can change. For example, you could change pure voice to it force a will if you want slightly more HP, and you're gonna lose some cooldown reduction on the stand your ground. That's why pure voice is selected. You could also change the Firebrand trait line. You could select any of the first traits. If you're playing Axe, the first one can be interesting because you are also dazing on your weapon skill. If you don't need the extra pages, you can run extra quickness. Otherwise, this one is the last one is a good default, which is why I'm giving you this. As for the gear selection, now you want to run full minstrel. I have the durability runes up. There are various options that you can pick. You could go for Moon Cones. If you want to heal slightly more, you could run the Mercy runes to have slightly faster press. Or durability is another good default. It has toughness, green duration, which is important to cover stability. But again, as for the infusions, you could run concentrations one or the healing or nothing. As you can see, I don't have anything here, but the concentrations are the slightly preferred infusion, because then again it increases your boon duration, and that's your main goal, is giving out some boons. So the longer the better. Now as for the weapons, I usually run with mace. You could run with axe. Those are the two weapons that I suggest for minstrel. If you're running other kind of builds, like celestial for example, then you could run the scepter, because the scepter is mainly a damage weapon. Now, as a Firebrand, you're not focusing on damaging, more focused on supporting and helping allies. That's why the mace is the best option, unless you want to replace your survivability with some crowd control, and that's the trade-off with the axe. The axe has the blazing edge, which is a pull. If traded, the symbol of vengeance is a daze, and you're trading that with the protector strike, which is Aegis, and a block on people nearby with a decent range, because that's the range that covers. And some regen, which is fairly useless, but still, it's kind of nice to have it. So that's mainly weapons and traits. Now, sure.
Respite, recover, return, choice, freedom, liberation.
G4. Then, okay. As for your priorities are I hope that everybody knows, you expect your Firebrand to provide stability, and to support your party by reducing damage and allowing the other people to do their job. Your job is not to do damage, is not to restore health, it's not to cleanse conditions. Your role is to enable other people to basically play. Which doesn't sound exciting, I know, but it's very important. Now, let me charge my mantras, which I do need my mantras. Now, as I was saying, your priorities: providing stability, stun breaking allies, and if you want, and if you feel comfortable using it, reviving allies using the Signet of Mercy. Now, the build that I've posted, I'm not using the Signet, but you could replace Advance with the Signet of Mercy. Stability. How can you provide stability? Well, in several ways, and many skills that you have actually provide stability. Now, Stand Your Ground is the easy skill that flat out provides stability. Hallowed Ground is a targeted skill. It stays in place, and if you are in it, it pulls stability. That's all it does. Your Mount of Liberation, you activate it in a small circle around you, and in a cone in front of you, it grants stability. Activating your Tome of Courage also provides stability. Your Epilogue provides stability. And that's it. That's all we have. Now, if you finish all your stabilities, you can also do roughly the same by providing Aegis. And you can provide Aegis by using Advance, Healing Skill, and your Shield of Judgment, and your Protector Strike. All these skills, yeah, I will get to the projectile hate, but the first things are the protecting other people. Now, Shield of Judgment is a cone in front of you. Protector Strike is a circle around you. Advance is a shout, so it's all around you, same as for the Stand Your Ground. So, your positioning relative to the squad that you are trying to help is quite important, because if you're facing nothing and you activate your Mantle of Liberation, you do nothing at all. What if you're facing the squad? Well, you have better chances of applying boons. Same goes for your shield, same goes for your Mantle of Solar, so you always have to look at your squad before you activate your skills. Now, if you notice, when you activate one of your Tome of Courage or Resolve or Justice, a new boon appears, which is the dormant thingy, and if you disable it, it is bright red. Well, that means that if you activated the book again, it won't proc the extra effect of providing stability. You can keep entering in and out from a book as much as you want, but the effect will only activate if the if the tome is not red, it's blue. This blue does something, if it's red, it does nothing. Now, your highest priority your highest priority is providing stability. Now, stability, how it works is if you have one stack, at least one stack, you cannot be CC'd. Right? It's quite easy. The thing is though that it needs to be active before the CC is actually applied. So if yeah, so if you are too late in applying the stability, then the stability has no effect because the target is already CC'd, and then you have to stun break them to free them. So if you get CC'd, then you use a break stun and you are free again. Which means that you have to apply stability before it's actually needed. Which is why sometimes you hear the commanders call for pre-stab. The pre-stab means apply stability before we actually fight the enemy. Now, you have many ways of applying stability, as I said before. The common way is using stand your ground. So if you are pushing towards an enemy group, you activate your stand your ground, and for 7 seconds, 8 seconds, or 9 seconds and something, you have stability up. It is that easy. Now, if you mistime it, so if you are you activate it and for 10 seconds the commander doesn't fight the enemy, then well, you've wasted your stability. You obviously have other ways than to reapply stability with Tome of Courage, as I said before, Hallowed Ground, and Mantle Liberation. Now, Mantle Liberation does provide stability, but the main feature of this of your elite skill is that it breaks stun not only on yourself, but also on your allies, on all affected up to 5 members.
Shinko, I don't have the option for that bell. What's it called? The skill, the elite skill?
It's called Mantle
Liberation.
Liberation.
Sorry, two people talk.
It's Mantle of Liberation. Let me...
But it doesn't look like the bell straight away, Stevie. You have to activate it. It's like a blue... weird
Oh, yeah. Yep, got it. Thank you. Right,
Yes,
that's all clear now. I've got the proper build and everything.
If you but it's a fair question though. If you don't see the bell, it means that you haven't activated the skill, and you also have to charge the mantra. Now, if you look at my screen, I used all the charges, and now I have to wait a long time, 1 minute for it to recharge. That's a feature for the mantras. The mantras have charges. If you exhaust all the charges, then you gotta wait. The last stack of the mantra is stronger, but that also incurs in a long cooldown. Sure, ask a question, ask away.
Mantras are the books, yeah?
Mantras are these the utility skills, your healing and your elite.
Elite and utility and skill. It's a group of skills, Stevie.
Okay.
Not the books.
I'll check it all out. I'll check it.
Go ahead, Yodo.
The stun break on your elite, is that on a cone also or around you?
It's both around you and in a cone.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, if it affects the stability, then it also applies the stun break. It has quite a long range, and it's also quite important skill, which is why you should keep it and not use it as a pre-stab kind of thing, because it's valuable and you want to have as many charges as possible during a fight, because when it's needed, maybe you miss the stun break. So you wanted to stun break, I don't know, let's see, you wanted to stun break over there, but you missed the first time, then you turn around, you use it, but it's not optimal, of course, but you need to be able to do that. So if you used already one charge to pre-stab, then you don't have the ability. So how do you pre-stab? The easiest way and probably the best way to pre-stab is to enter the Tome of Courage. So as you get close to the enemy, you activate the Tome. You're already in Tome of Courage, which is nice. You have stability, and you can already provide the Chapter 4, which is resistance. Not only you are providing stability, but you're also providing a variety of boons, which are resistance, the switching the tome, provide protection, resolution, quickness, all kind of things. And in the end, you're always gonna use the book of the Tome of Courage in a fight, so might as well start with it. Since one of the recent patches, you can enter and exit the books however you want. So my suggestion would be you're entering the book, you activate your number 4, you can exit and start using the other weapon skills like Protector Strike or Shield of Judgment to start applying Aegis and various boons as the two groups clashes. And that's only to guarantee that you have stability. Right, so stability with Tome of Courage, that lasts probably for the first part of the fight. Right after, and you have to look at your boon bar or the boon bar of your allies, and when you're playing on Firebrand, I highly suggest you to switch this option. Instead of view as a grade, you activate it in view as, well, you disable view as a grade, so it views as a party, so you can look at the boons of your party. Now in this case we have a big ass party, so you can't see everybody, but in a normal situation you only have 5 people, so it's gonna be fun. So as I was saying before, stability provides the stops basically ACC from being applied. Now Aegis works similarly, as in it blocks whatever attack it comes to you. Now it's a good way to bridge in between stability providers. So you apply, if you don't have stability, then you start applying Aegis until you have something that provides stability back. And you also have to try and avoid overlapping those things, because then what will happen is that, well, you start hearing people, oh, I'm out of stability, or I don't have any skills left, I don't know what to do because I've used everything at the start. And that's why you have to pace yourself, and the only way to do that is to be mindful of the skills that you're using and not spamming them. And starting with Tome of Courage is a good way to do that, because then it starts triggering the 30 seconds. The Stand Your Ground is shorter as a cooldown, so you can use this one, then wait a little bit, wait for it to end or be stripped, and then you activate your Stand Your Ground. Now,
Wasn't it stuck, by the way?
yeah, what's the stuck?
Yeah, I mean
It's stuck
keep
in.
talking.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
of course, if you you can activate all together and everything will stack. And then you will have like 10 stacks of stability. Now, on paper, it sounds amazing because you have 10 stacks of a boon. The downside of it is that Boon Corrupt doesn't care about your number of stacks, and it cares about the boon itself. So if you have 20 stacks of stability and you get Boon Corrupt, well, all of them goes away. There's
Oh.
immediately,
Yeah.
because it's one boon, and the boon corrupts the boon, which brings me to the other thing. How does the Boon Corrupt work? And why it's important for us to know that? Well, it's important because the Boon Corrupt tends to prioritize the most recently applied boon to be stripped. So, if you are extremely late with stability, and the stability is the only boon, well, it's the most recent boon that you have applied, well, it's also the first one to go. So, what you want to do usually is, well, apply stability, and then apply something else that gives boons. Like, it could be, for example, entering the Tome of the Soul. It provides regen, resolution, quickness, all nice things that are not stability and goes on top of stab. So that, you know, you have better chance of not getting stripped immediately. Now, Hallowed Ground is a pulsing field, like any other pulsing thing, similarly to Revenants and other classes that, you know, drop a field on the ground and provide boons constantly. As a nice side effect of keeping to keep refreshing the same boon, which means that it's always gonna be on top of the corrupt list. So if you open your fight with the Hallowed Ground, there's high chances that stability is gonna be stripped. Which means that if you know that, you have to be ready to stun break people. Because, you know, it might happen that it's gonna be fine, but you also need to have your eyes open and be ready to free your guys. Same goes for Revenants when they open with the Stab Road or well, other skills that provide this kind of effect. To cover boons, you have the other books, as I said before. You could start with book 3, book 1. You have already plenty of boons, and you can pull like sample as opening, or you can decide to cleanse conditions if needed. Something that I haven't said, but you know, fairly important. Your skills in the books uses these diamond-shaped things that are the pages on top. Each skills requires 2 pages, except for the first one that only costs 1. Now, if you're not running the Archivist of Whispers, you have only 5, which means that you can only use 2 skills before it ends. And so if you activate 1, activate 2, you cannot do anything else, and that's it. If you happen to finish all the pages, the book automatically disappear, and of course you can reactivate it, but you won't be able to do anything until you have enough pages. That's why in the 4th build I'm running with the Archivist, because it's easier for you to spam skills and, you know, and also mess up, because if you use one skill by mistake, you still have another. And use 1, 2, 3 skills. The last one costs 3. Well, you also have to look at how much they actually cost, but on average you can use 2 skills per each skill costs 2 pages. Now, big stab, small stab. Small stab, it's something that it was more commonly used before the changes of the mantras. Now that the mantras impose a long cooldown, I wouldn't suggest to use small stab, except when strictly needed. And for example, if you have to cover, like we are walking on a bridge and you want to avoid getting pulled down, for example, it's an amazing use of the hollow ground. You know you're gonna walk into it. You're gonna get stability stacks. If you get pulled, it's gonna get covered. It's highly unlikely that you're gonna get stripped in that situation. So that's a good way of providing stability as we're moving. You could also cover using Aegis instead of the stability. Was if you decide that your cooldown will be back by the time you actually engage a fight, then you could also use Mount of Liberation. But then again, as I said before, I rather keep it for waking stuns, because that's what get people killed. You know, you hear, oh, I'm stuck behind, I cannot move, I'm stuck, etc. Most of the time is some kind of daze effect or stun effect, and you can help people out. And you can also help people out by using the stand, tower stand, just chapter 4. I would use the Tome of Courage as, I wouldn't call it small stab. I mean, it is smaller than Stand Your Ground, but I see that as two different ways of providing stability that complement themselves. So you use it, you first use Tome of Courage, because you want to avoid stacking Stand Your Ground and Tome of Courage. First, you get rid of Tome of Courage, and then you Stand Your Ground. But I wouldn't use it to preemptively without any reason to do so, because otherwise you easily run out of stability. Now, surviving. Now, this class is really hard to kill. I mean, it's being built for that. You have various ways to survive. The first one, it's incredibly available to all classes in this game. It's called dodge. You can dodge away from the damage, and that usually does it. But if you are out of dodges, usually I'm running with the energy sigil on Firebrand, so if you swap weapon, you get some energy back, and that grants you another dodge, but that's not enough, right? You have Protector Strike that blocks an incoming attack, and if you do block something, it also applies Aegis. Now that helps blocking attacks and also helps protecting other people and retreating. So you can run with the Protector Strike and help. You have the Shield of Judgment. It's protection and Aegis. Protection reduce power damage, and Aegis blocks an attack. The Shield of Absorption is a huge shield that protects you from projectiles. If you re-click it or you re-tap it, it also triggers healing. Now it's not an amazing healing skill, but it's better than nothing. So use it. Your healing skills, it's not really healing anything, but it does provide Aegis. Helpful. Advance, another source of Aegis. Now, if you need to protect yourself, usually the number 5 and number 4 are pretty effective to get out of anything you are in, because the number 5 provides extra toughness, protection, stability, Aegis, and the number 4 provides resistance. So you have the you're basically immune to CCs, and you cannot be slowed or crippled for a short duration, but that's usually enough to move out of damage. You also have access to the staff weapon, which I haven't really talked about, but well, it's something that we have. Holy Strike does some little healing on yourself, or whatever target you target. And the Empower, which the commander usually call at the start of the fight, provides might, but something else. It does also healing. You could use it to restore some of your health back. Now, if you do decide to do that, I highly suggest to first use your healing skill that provides a little bit of quickness, so that the cast time is not 2 seconds, but is slightly less. Yeah, it's not much, but you know, better than nothing. And by the way, if you are casting Empower, you're stuck in place. So if you start casting in the wrong place, it's not a nice experience, and it might get you killed. Things. Oh, something that I should have mentioned at the start, but I always forget. If you open your options and in settings, I highly suggest to enable the, well, always showing the party and squad health bars, so you can see where your friendly people are, and you can enable the thick party health bars so that your party members have a slightly bigger health bars, so you can actually see the, where your party is. Because as a Firebrand, your responsibility is to your party first, so you need to know where your party is. Something else that I usually do while playing on Firebrand, you can place personal targets, which is, I can't remember my keybind for that. Let's take a look. Might have missed it. Set personal target. In my case, is Control 9. I highly suggest to set it to your secondary support, or your Tempest, your Druid, your support Vindicator, or whoever it is, so that you can always keep an eye out on your secondary support. Because if your secondary support dies, it's highly likely that you're gonna die as well. So it's the most important person in the in your party. And for the secondary supports, I highly suggest to do the same on your Firebrand, so you can keep an eye on your Firebrand and help them out to, you know, keep you alive. So you'll always have an eye out on the others. The personal target looks like this on my screen. Now it's on, and only I can see it, and nobody else can, which is effective. Signet of Mercy. The Signet of Mercy, if you're learning Firebrand, I wouldn't suggest to use it, but if you do want to use it, let me switch build. Signal of Mercy, well, improves concentration, which is helpful. Your boons will last longer. It does a very, very long cast time. So, to be effective, it's important to see where your party is and who is going down. And whenever you see somebody in your party going down, you start pre-casting your signet. And after a very long cast time, that guy is gonna go up. Now, why I'm saying pre-casting, because if you see somebody down and you start casting then, it's it's likely that they're gonna be dead by the time you finish casting it. Especially if you don't have quickness up. So what you wanna do is first activate your healing skill, then start casting the signet. Now, the signet has also a very long cooldown. So if you miss it, well, you miss the chance of blessing people. But basically, that's it. After you rest somebody, it's your job isn't finished there. Because you also need to keep an eye out on the guy that you just rest and try to protect him. How you can protect him? Well, if he's roughly in range, well, you can try and use your protector strikes. You can move slightly towards them and be ready to either stun break them using your Mantle of Liberation or your protector strike or a Shield of Judgment. You could also drop lines behind them so that if somebody is following them, they're being stopped on the line. So it's not that you drop the signet and you forget that people existed, right? You start jumping around and that's it. Nope. Also need to follow it up with some skills, some support skills. That's why I'm saying, if you're learning Firebrand, just equip your advance, and it's better. It's easier to use, and it's effective. You also won't have to remember to use your symbol of swiftness on the ground to keep up your swiftness, because advance automatically gives like 30 seconds plus of swiftness, so it's always gonna be up. And overall it's easier to play. I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. Any questions? Using last charge of mantras? Never. I say never, but it also depends. It depends. Because if you're already winning, sure. I mean, just waste it and fuck it. It happens sometimes that, especially with the Mantle of Liberation, you use it because you actually need the last stun break. And then, yeah, I mean, if it is life or death situation, sure, use it. You know, it's better to be alive. But other than that, yeah. It rebuke. Okay. Well, as an opening, and to cover the pool on the thing, as an opening, you could switch on Tome of Courage and then immediately on Fire in F1. So you have cover boons, and you have the ability to pull. Is it useful? Well, yeah. But then remember what's your role. you already have provided stability and a reasonable amount of boons to the party, so you can afford to waste a couple of pages on a pool. It's alright. But if you notice that constantly your party is getting punished by your play, then exit your fire immediately and just go back to other books or use your weapon skills and like focus on protecting your party. There are times, and that depends on the enemy, on the commander, and many other factors, where it's perfectly safe to use pools or even use all your pages in F1, like epilogue, scorch, all your skills in fire, because the maybe the amount of numbers or the enemy is not doing great or is not really boon corrupting, so you don't have to focus that much on protecting your party, then sure, I mean, go for it. As a general rule though, I would say stick to the F3 and F2 as books. Speaking of which, you could use the Oasis. It has been nerfed. It says that it costs 3 pages. Now your role is not cleansing conditions, and usually secondary supports do a better job at removing condis. So isn't really needed for the Firebrand to do that? Not really. It does increase the healing by 20%. So whenever you heal your commander to stand your ground or you stay in a position where bunker down or whatever, you're staying put in a place, then sure, help your party with an extra 20% healing. By all means. But that's where the healing skills are most important, right? And it's unlikely that you're gonna get knocked around if the group is standing on single spot. Other than that, I would say use your weapon skills. Your weapon skills are amazing, and especially now that you can freely enter and exit the books. I find that I use my weapon skills more times than not. It's recommended to keep swapping weapons, use your cooldowns, and weave the books in and out instead of camping a book until you exhaust all the pages. Kinda was what we were doing before. Other questions? I might have missed it.
He asked what was the best position in a group should a Firebrand stick to?
Well, usually, that's why
Should you be straight on top of the commander all the time, or can you go back?
that's why the Firebrand commander is not a great commander, because you kind of want to be slightly behind your tag.
Perfect.
Your skills goes in front, right?
Yeah.
So as a Firebrand, you want to be slightly behind, so your cone affects the squad.
Perfect.
Now, as a commander, it's quite difficult, because either you command watching your squad, which will never happen. Well, most of your skills only affect a very small radius around you. So yeah. But still, stand your ground is a radius around you. Same goes for the Tome of Courage activation. So you still should have decent stability, even if you decide to lead on a Firebrand.
Perfect.
The bulwark, I suppose that's the... Okay, the bubble. Now, if you're running the Archivist of Whispers, you can consider running or using the bulwark. I mean, it's not bad, and it's especially useful if you are retreating. So your commander say, go back, 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 back. As you're going back, then you place your bubble behind, and the enemy revenants, necros, will get their skills reflected. Elementalists as well, and all other rangers, etc. So it's a nice thing, but you could also achieve the same exact thing by activating your Shield of Absorption. So, you know, you can pick. So that's where I would use it. I definitely wouldn't use it as we are pushing and you top the bubble like that. You could also use it to protect the siege, for example, if you don't have any support Vindicator that can do the same without wasting resources. Would also, if we are in a kind of a standoff, so the enemy is moving sideways and we're doing the same, you might want to drop the bubbles as a way to reduce the passive damage that the enemy is doing, like with the 1-1 on the Revenants and the Elementalists, because, you know, it kind of stacks up. But other than that, it's situational. Other questions? Or did I miss any? Because that's also an option. Well, yeah, I already saw that some of you guys failed the basic of Firebrand, which is Firebrand that has to be on a char. I mean, it's kind of a mandatory look. Except for that.
I mean, I do have a char Firebrand, I just never play it.
Weapons. As for the weapons, look, I usually suggest running mace because it's easier to get started with, and the protector strike really helps. Now, the axe is also amazing. Why? Because, especially as a commander, is great, I think. Because it allows you to pull people into your damage. And with the Symbol of Vengeance, it's also helpful because it provides fury on your party. So if your party doesn't have any fury provider, well, it's kind of a way to provide a little bit of fury, which, you know, it stacks up. If you're running Axe, then I would highly suggest to also use the trait for it, which are your number 2 days. As you run into the enemy, you can top that and daze people, which is super annoying. It strips stability, and well, that's it. That's what it does. Now, the trade-off is kind of important. So if you're learning Firebrand, I wouldn't suggest using Axe, at least at the start. And then, you know, play around with it. You can test it, and maybe you find it that you like it more, and by all means, go for it. In the end, you have to also enjoy what you're playing.
if you're a beginner, what should you use instead of axe?
The mace.
Oh no, I've got a mace already.
You
I'm talking about the other set of weapons.
Stuff. You want mace?
Staff.
Yeah, you want mace, shield, and as the other weapon is always gonna be a staff.
Right. See, I didn't know that.
Because well, all the commanders call for empower, so you want to be able to provide the empower. But also the symbol of swiftness and the holy strikes are really versatile because you can drop it onto the enemies or to allies, and you can do a little bit of damage. Break the remove Aegis on the enemies, because if you drop a symbol of swiftness on the enemy, it does damage and therefore works.
And just use minstrels on that as well, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Now you don't want to use the hammer. I mean, again, it could be an option, but it's more a niche that you might want to use the hammer, especially in GVG settings where you have more. But by that point, you know already what you're doing, so pick the weapon that works for you, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Axe torch. If you're running Celestial instead of Minstrel, sure. I mean, torch instead of shield, it means that you are trading Aegis for Condi Clans and burning. So unless you're Celestial, you only are gaining cleanses. Is it helpful? I don't know. I mean, if you do need cleanse, by that point you should probably be running Month of Lore, for example. And if you are really desperate for cleansing, you probably are gonna remove the the Hallowed Crown and replace it with the Month of Lore, so that with Pure Voice you have advanced that cleanse to conditions, the Month of Lore that also removes Condis. If you really want to have Condi cleanse, then it's a better option than replacing your shield. The Scepter, the Scepter, as again, it's a purely damage weapon. Scepter. The symbol of punishment does damage. It does provide some might, but who cares, really? The Chains of Light, it's the single target immob. Again, if you're doing GVGs, sure, maybe, but as Yoda pointed out, it's not really your job. If you were to play Celestial, then sure. I mean, if you're playing Celestial, it's extra damage, but then it could be an option.
More violence, I say. Less violence.
Any other questions? Because I have to go in less than 5 minutes.
No, I'm all good, thanks. Oh.
When are you doing a mechanist training run?
God damn it, Sneaky.
Probably never.
Okay, just curious. I know there's a lot of mech players in Gandara.
I heard
so,
Sneaky wants to run a full mechanist squad one night.
Yeah, I do.
Just so he can kick himself out of the squad first.